The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy here, and look, it's Troy's take today, and it is on the Eels vs Cowboys game played at CommBank Stadium on Saturday night, round 6 of the NRL. The Eels, after that embarrassing loss to the Canberra Raiders in round 5, 41 points to 8, needed to get this win. It was Old Boys Day at Parramatta, so a lot of the Eels legends were in attendance. They had a gathering at Parramatta Eels Club before the game, so great to catch up with each other as well. I caught up with a couple of the Eels legends there. On the way to the ground, I caught up with David Lydiard, premiership winner with the Eels, had a great little chat there. And also caught a few of them after the game as well, had a great chat with them. But it was good to see them. They did the Guard of Honour for the boys to run out to, and they did a Lap of Honour as well before the game as well. So it was great to see the old boys there, their annual catch-up at Parramatta home games. The Blue and Gold Alliance, they do a great job there. So if you can support them, you can buy some Blue and Gold Alliance merchandise. They've got a whole different range of merchandise that you can buy. They've got hats, they've got shirts, I think shorts as well. So check them out. blueandgoldalliance.com.au, I think it is. Check them out, and if you want to, especially if you're a Parramatta supporter and you want to help out the old boys, all the money goes to the old boys there of Parramatta. So great to see them there. But to the game, and look, you can hear that I'm a little bit more happier today than I was against Canberra, because as you know by now, Parramatta got the victory 27 points to 20, and as I said, it was a much needed win for the Eels, because after 2 straight losses they needed to get back in the winner's circle. They needed to climb that ladder slowly. They finished the round in 11th position on the ladder, so they are still staying in touch with the top 8. Also eases a little bit of pressure off coach Brad Arthur as well. He made some changes going into this game. Sivo was dropped. Blaze Talangi was dropped back to reserve New South Wales Cup. And so he made a couple of changes there. Bryce Cartwright came back into the side as well this week. And Bailey Simonson as well came back. He moved to the wing instead of centre, which he played last week. So Morgan Harper came into the squad there. So he made a few changes there. Fans weren't happy with the Morgan Harper. Some fans, anyway, weren't happy with the Morgan Harper change. They wanted Blaze Talangi to possibly stay in the squad. I probably would have had Blaze in the team there somewhere, probably in at centre. But Coach Brad Arthur, he said he wanted to go for a experienced lineup in this game. The Cowboys, they were up the top of the ladder, I think coming second at the time. So admittedly, they hadn't played a lot of the top sides, but they have been winning games. Now, if you caught my chat with Sam from Wobbling Jaw Sports, he gave some great stats about this game, and he's a massive North Queensland supporter. And one of the stats he gave was that the Cowboys had leaked in 24 points on average a game. So their defence wasn't too good, but their their attack is pretty good. I think they've got the best attack in the league, but they've got the second worst defence in the league, so that was always going to be a worry for them going into the game. And look, it didn't look that good for Parramatta at the start, as there was an early no try. There was a no try to the Cowboys. Kyle Felt, the try-scoring record holder for the Cowboys, he went over, but it was ruled a no try. But then the Cowboys, they get the first try through Jeremiah Nanai after a short kick from Scott Drinkwater, who had a pretty good game for the Cowboys. He's been in pretty reasonable form for them. But then, look, a great Parramatta hit back, and there was a great pass from Jermaine Hopgood to Joe Offahengawi, and he was on the charge, and he just sort of break through the line and scores, and then Clint Gutherson converted, and it ended up tied up. But it was just a great pass between the forwards there. Jermaine Hopgood, a little bit of ball playing there, and Joe Offahengawi gets his first try in Eels colours. And that was and part of the game, Parramatta's game again this week, and they're probably pretty well known for it, is their offload game, and they got back to that during this game, their offload game, which is good to see. And that's, as I said, that's what they're known for throughout the competition for offloads, and they did 11 offloads to the Eels, only 3 to the Cowboys, so that potentially could have been a little bit of a difference in the game. So, yeah, Parramatta got a penalty for infringement, and Gutho took the penalty kick at goal, and it was the first time that the Eels took the lead in the game. At that time, I thought maybe potentially the Eels would have taken the tap and just kept on the roll and going for that one, but I thought that's what I thought as a fan watching it. I thought they might have just taken the tap, but Gutho and the team had other ideas, and I guess they've gone back, or they went back to what Brisbane used to do, and if 2 points are on offer, just take the 2 points and just get that confidence of being in front there. And the reason why a lot of Eels fans were potentially not happy with Morgan Harper being in the team was because of his defence. And look, the Cowboys scored again shortly after with Morgan Harper. He jammed in, he missed the target, he missed the tackle. Scotty Drinkwater, he knew what to do. He found Tom Chester. Morgan tried to bring him down close to the line as he was going down, but Tom Chester was able to get the ball down. So the Cowboys took the lead, but then again, it looked like they were going to extend that lead even further when Murray Tuilagi went over in the corner, but his foot touched the sideline before the ball went down, so that was a bit of a relief for the Eels. Otherwise, the Cowboys would have went further in front. But Parramatta, they got back into the leader in the game again after a good combination of passes between Dylan Brown, Will Penasini. Look, that Penasini pass back in field to Joey Lussick, who did score the try. That was a cracker. It was a fair distant pass too, back in field. So again, that offload game, Dylan Brown offloading to Will Penasini, who offloaded to Joey Lussick, and he went over, and Gutho converted that try. So Parramatta got right back in the lead, and right before half time, Parramatta got a penalty, and Gutho, he took a shot at goal. There wasn't that much time to go on the clock, so he took probably the right decision there and took a shot at goal, but unfortunately he kicked it too far to the left, and unfortunately he missed it, but the Eels still led 14-10 at half time. So a pretty interesting first half there in this game. It still could have went anybody's way, and look, it was a bad start to the second half by the Cowboys. They kicked the ball out in the full Bailey Simonson, he knew where the sideline was, put his foot over the sideline and got the penalty for Parramatta. So Parramatta get a penalty on halfway, and that leads them getting downfield. And look, Dylan Brown, he put a little grubber kick in. One of his great attributes is his short kicking game, and this was on show again on Saturday night, and he put a little grubber in. It looked like it potentially was going to go dead, but Morgan Harper, he came in around from the side, and he got the ball down and scored the try. He never gave up on the play, which was great to see. He scored the try. Gutho converted. It was 20 points to 10. So a nice 10-point buffer there for the Eels. But then the Cowboys, they struck back. Tom Dearden, the captain, he threw a pass to Valentine Holmes, who, despite never scoring against Parramatta in his 10 games played for the Cowboys against Parramatta, he never scored a try. And I put a post up on Instagram, I put a story up on Instagram about it, and he then scored the try despite the attention of two Eels around him, but he failed to convert the try. And after he scored the try, I put another story up saying that, see, told you, if you need a streak broken or whatever, just get me to comment on it or make a video about it, and it will probably happen. And that's what happened on that day in this game when Valentine Holmes scored a try. Now, look, there was a try awarded to Parramatta, but it went to the video, and it reminded me of Mitch Kenny in the 23 grand final. The short dropout was kicked by the Cowboys. The players went up for the ball, and Joey Lussick, he came up with the ball, and he's just run through the middle and scored a try. Now, it went up to the bunker, and unfortunately it was ruled a no try to Joey Lussick. And the reason being inside the 10 metres at the time of the dropout. Well, it looked a bit harsh in my opinion. It was so close in terms of how close it really was, because I would have probably awarded it a try. I mean, it's so close by the vision that we saw there. Gutho, as I said, he was in and around everything on Saturday night, and look, that's what we expect from Gutho each and every week. He's a competitor. He never gives up. He wants to win, and that was no different on Saturday. It was on the last tackle. Gutho takes a little bit of a run. He finds, I think it was one of his dummy half runs, I think he had 4 during the game. He finds Dijon Arcee, who he had a little bit to do, but he was only 10 metres out, and he scored a crucial try. And look, during the game, I thought Arcee played really well. He was organising the troops pretty well. His kicking game was good. And to top it off, he scored a try. He kicked the field goal to get that 7-point buffer late in the game. It was just on his right side. He's a left foot kicker. It was 2 passes out. And 2 passes out from the dummy half, and he was just in prime position, middle of the field. He kicked his first NRL field goal at that time, and Parramatta won the game 27 points to 20. But just before that, a little bit of a disappointing defence effort from Parramatta, although it could have been just one of those tries. I guess that's rugby league and that's competitive. It was the last tackle on a Cowboys set, and maybe a contender for team's try of the year. They were about 50 metres out, and the Cowboys, they seemed to be in a bit of disarray. They didn't know what to do on this last tackle. They were trying to get back into the game. Parramatta led at the time 26 points to 14, 10 minutes to go. And look, the ball got thrown around, and in the hope of doing something and trying to break that line, but the ball, he gets it back to they get it back to Scott Drinkwater, who was on the left-hand side of the field at this point, and he's just sort of, it's an unorthodox pass. It was like the ball got passed to him, and then he's just like tapped it back to Tommy Dearden, who gets it to Murray Tuilagi unmarked, and as like any good fullback does, Scotty Drinkwater, he was backing up and he scored the try. Now on his way to the try line, he put his arm up in the air. When asked about it on the Matty Johns show, he said, "Who were you pointing about? He was asked, who were you pointing at, and why did you raise your finger up in the air?" And he said he's just pointing to his family that were in the crowd. It was Scott Drinkwater's 100th club game for the Cowboys, so that was a bit of a milestone game. So it got the Cowboys back to within 6 points and 8 minutes to go. So that was a long 8 minutes, I can tell you, that's for sure. When RC kicked that field goal, it probably made it a little bit easier. There was only a couple of minutes to go there, but you never know with Parramatta what can happen. But just having that 7-point buffer really gave myself, and I guess other fans as well, a bit of leeway and felt a little better. But as I said, we all know what can happen to Parramatta when they have a lead late in the game. Sometimes tries and points can be scored. So in the end, as I said, 27 points to 20 is the way that it ended. It was a much needed win for Parramatta after 2 losses in a row, and in this competition you just cannot lose too many games in a row. And as I said, it also eases probably a little bit of pressure off Brad Arthur for now, I guess, until the next loss that Parramatta has. And I guess Brad Arthur's job will be once again spoken about in terms of whether he should be the Parramatta head coach for the Eels moving forward. Now to a few of the stats for the game, because you know I love my stats, and as I said before the game, Sam from Wobbling Jaw Sports, he's all over the stats about games, so I love the stats that he brought, and I've got a few stats from that game. The possession in the game was pretty even, 51% to the Eels, 49% to the Cowboys. The completion rate was 72% each, so probably a little bit down on what they should be. A few mistakes here and there were made. Look, the Eels only had 3 more sets than the Cowboys anyway. Offloads, as I mentioned before, Eels 11, Cowboys 3. Missed tackles was fairly even, Eels 33, Cowboys 39. Only 4 ruck infringements during the game, but 13 penalties in the game, and the Cowboys got the lead on that one. 8 penalties to 5 to the Eels. To some of the players of the game, for Parramatta, Joey Lussick, 39 tackles, the most in the Eels side. The most run meters for the team was Clint Gutherson with 164, and that included 1 line break as well. Look, in terms of the forwards, I think RCG, he topped the forward run meters, 152, 16 runs. Junior Paolo, who again came off the bench, he was named to start but came off the bench, so I think that is really working. He played about 44 minutes in this game, and I think he looked really good. He looked fresh, he looked good, and I think that potentially could be Junior's ironically starting position off the bench. So 13 runs, 124 metres. Sean Lane, 13 runs also for 129 metres. Bryce Cartwright, only 7 runs for 50 metres. Now, I think that could potentially be due to his rib injury. It's probably, the rib injuries are a very tricky one indeed, so you cannot actually do anything for those ones. They just sort of had to heal naturally, and you just get needled up and play the game. So maybe he wasn't there for his running game on Saturday night. And Jermaine Hopgood, 14 runs, 119 metres. And for the backs, Morgan Harper, 16 runs, 123 metres. So a pretty fair effort there from Morgan Harper. There was a couple of runs there where it looked like he was going to break the line. There was one run there where he really got us out of trouble. We were down in our end and he took a hit up. I think it was the second tackle after a kick downfield from the Cowboys, and he really got us some good metres there. Overall, I thought he played pretty well. A lot of people say that he didn't, but he does cop a lot of criticism, as I said. Look, he proved me wrong in this game. I think, as I said, I probably would have had Blaze Talangi in the centres, but Morgan was chosen, and I think he did earn that. He's obviously earned that spot. He got picked, and he showed why he got picked. I think 16 runs, 123 metres. He was the leader in the backs. So, well done to Morgan. Let's hope it's a consistent effort. He'll probably get named this week against the Dolphins up in Northern Territory, Darwin. So he'll probably get named there. So I think, well earned there. The third highest run meter getter, I guess you could say, behind Gutho and Dylan Brown. Dylan Brown, he had a good game as well. As I said, short kicking game was his thing. One of his short kicks led to a try. His runs, he's pretty fast off a standing start, and he's got a quick little step. A little bit of trouble for a high tackle on a Cowboy, but I think he is fine to play next week against the Dolphins. Bryce Cartwright, I think he'll get a fine. I think that was for pressure on the head in a tackle. I think it was the same tackle, and he only got a fine for that, so he'll be right to play if he is fit to play. So, look, overall, I think you can't go past Clint Gutherson as player of the match, but look, as I said before, I think that's just expected of Gutho. Where I view the game from, which is behind the post, so I see Gutho standing at the back there, just barking instructions, telling the defensive line which way the ball's going to go. He's just in and around everything, and that's what Parramatta fans expect him to do every single week, and I guess he just delivers, and it's very hard to think what Parramatta would be like without Mitchell Moses and Clint Gutherson being in the same team, or being out of the team at the same time. It'd be very, very difficult. So thankfully we do have Gutho in the side whilst Mitch is out, and his leadership is second to none, and if he is a real leader. If he leads from the front, the others will follow, and that's the aim anyway. So well done to Gutho on your game. As I've said, I think Morgan Harper, he played pretty well. Maybe one of his best Parramatta games that he's played so far. I think he was pretty good against the Bulldogs as well at the start of the year. But this one was probably a little bit better than that one. He scored a try in that game as well, but this one, just for his runs and stuff, probably a little bit better as well. Junior Paolo off the bench, he was sensational. Regan Campbell-Gillard as well. So, and one player I think that really looked pretty good as well was Luca Moretti off the bench. He looked pretty strong as well, and I think he may have secured that bench spot for another couple of weeks anyway as well. And I just think, he's playing some pretty good footy off the bench. So it's very competitive for spots in this Parramatta pack and on the bench. So hopefully he can keep his spot for another few weeks as we go along in the season, because he's playing really good footy at the moment. And that was probably my wrap for the players. So I'll probably say Gutho, Harper and Dylan Brown, probably the players of the game for me. You can put them in any order, I think. Most people will probably say Gutho. I think the fans voted Dylan Brown as the player of the match, so congratulations to him. So, as I said previously, the Eels find themselves now in 11th position on the NRL ladder, having won 3, lost 3, so 50% record there. They currently sit on 6 points with a number of teams, the Roosters, Broncos, Tigers, Dragons. Just outside that top 8, the Sea Eagles and Warriors have 7 points each as they played a draw on the weekend. So the Eels sit just out of the top 8. They are yet to have a bye yet in this season. A few of the teams above them have had a bye. Their for and against is -13. So hopefully they can get that into the positive as well, because we generally see that no team makes the top 8 unless they have a positive for and against. We saw Canberra, I think it was last year, make it with a -1, but that's the exception to the rule, isn't it? So -13 there for 123 points against 136. And their next opponent, as I said, is up in Darwin, a sponsorship deal with the Northern Territory government. And they take a game up there once a year. And this year it is against the Dolphins. I was going to say Redcliffe Dolphins there. I just wish they'd call them the Redcliffe Dolphins instead of the Dolphins. Anyway, so they're playing them up there this year. And look, the Eels beat the Dolphins last year at Sunshine Coast Stadium in their first and only meeting. The Dolphins next week will be struggling with a raft of injuries, and they are big name players too that have got injuries. The Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he's got an injury. Tom Flegler, Herbie Farnworth, Anthony Milford suspended, so they got a heaps of injuries. So I think it's going to be difficult for them, but more on that game when the team list gets named on Tuesday and in my tipping podcast. So more about that game. But as I said, up in Darwin last year the Eels lost to the Broncos up there in Darwin, and a lot of fans say, why do they take a Queensland team to Darwin? Just due to the humidity. And look, it was okay. I think back early on in the days, we beat Penrith, we beat Canberra there. We've beaten the Cowboys there once before. They've beaten us there. We lost to the Broncos last year, so how will we go this year? But as I said, stay tuned for the tipping podcast. That'll come out on probably Tuesday or Wednesday this week. So lots of content coming through on the Paracave podcast. Well, that's it. Round 6, Troy's take on the Eels versus Cowboys. Great to get a win. Makes the week a little bit more enjoyable. I hope Eels fans that are listening, I hope you enjoyed that win and the fact that we got the 2 points and took a bit of pressure off losing, and it's never good to lose. So 2 straight losses. It was glad that it wasn't 3 straight losses. So that's Troy's take. Stay tuned for the rest of the week for the tipping podcast, the interview-based podcast, the game preview and also the replay chats with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM. And please leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform that you listen to. Thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for what's coming up, and I will catch you next time on the Para Cave Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. See you next time.